So I'm having a chat with Billy Idol. Now, this is your first tour since last year's US tour. You obviously still like being on the road.
Yes. Don't necessarily love being on the road, but there is a fun element to it. And especially if you've got some sort of new music you're kind of enjoying. And we've got some really good stuff that we haven't been able to come over to the UK and play for a couple of years because of the rotten coronavirus. So we've actually got a load of new music. So that makes it exciting to come and play. So then I will love it.
Now, you talked about getting an infection and various issues, including surgery and other bits and pieces, which stopped you from working. How did you cope with that?
Well, it wasn't much fun. I mean, it was just annoying, really, because it just took such a long time to get rid of the MRSA. It's so resilient against most antibiotics. So it was kind of more annoying, because you just knew you're going to get better, but it was taking forever. It took a few goes with a load of antibiotics to really work. And my dad actually got MRSA, so I kind of knew it was going to be difficult to get rid of it, but I knew I would do it, So it's just a matter of doing it. But it was it's more annoying, really, because we had this, we were going to go on a tour and with this new music we've got, so we couldn't do it. So I've sort of been interrupted, so to speak, and here we go. We're finally getting to rock. So it's exciting, actually.
And let's talk about the band. You moved to New York in a long time ago now to pursue a solo career with Steve Stevens, and you've had a long association with Steve and other members of the band. What makes this group of people such a great team to work with?
Well, I think with Steve in particular, we've both got different gifts we bring to Billy Idol, to the thing that is, rather than me. I think that's what was so great. That I saw Lou Reed, the Rock and Roll Animal tour, and I didn't think that was the best Lou Reed version, really. But I did think, what a great idea! You kind of have a punk singer with with an incredible guitarist, and that was a little bit what even in punk rock we were kind of doing with Durwood. Bob Durwood Andrews. It's still a punk rock group, but we had a great guitarist, and I just knew when I started my solo stuff, I just knew you had to have a killer guitarist. And meeting Steve, there's so much he could do. Once I really started to realize what he could do, it meant I could go all over the map musically. Whatever I wanted to do, this guy could nail it. And that gives us this kind of freedom to move, and then we kind of play off each other, our different likes and whatever, and it just works. And you're not going to argue with that.
And I'd like to know, how do you rehearse for a live tour like this?
As little as possible, if no. No, well, we do a couple of. I mean, we're sort of played in a bit on a lot of the old stuff, the classic Billy Idol stuff. We're played in on, because I've this band I've got with Eric Aldenius on drums and Billy Morrison rhythm guitar, rhythm and lead actually, Steve McGrath bass, and Paul Trudeau on the keyboard. We've been together, this version for about 7 years. So we really played in terms on the old stuff. And we're actually, so it's just a question of coming to terms with whatever new stuff we're doing. And it's just, we do have this new EP that's going to be coming out, Cage. And we've got a single that's going to be coming out called Cage with the video, and Stephen Sebring directed video. So it's kind of, that's what we're going to be rehearsing, really, is these new songs that we're going to be playing.
Now, a UK tour is pretty intensive. You said you don't love to tour, but like to. How do you keep up the energy to manage it from your point of view?
Yeah, well, that's it. I do kind of exercise and stuff. And these days, what I really do is I just do the gig. That's kind of what I do mainly. I mean, it's lovely to be able to be a tourist and stuff, but in general, I like to save all my energy for the stage. That's where I'm at, these days, because you don't have tons of energy to burn like you did once upon a time, way back.
And on this show, have you worked out the set list? Do you know what you're going to be doing? And will you be doing any Generation X songs?
We usually do a Generation X song. What it'll be at the moment, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, we've got a full range. We were doing Your Generation actually more recently, so it could be Your Generation. I mean, we were doing that last September, October, November. So it could be that, And that's the fun. We've got there's Ready Steady Go. King Rocker. There's a number of Generation X numbers. We know most of Valley of the Dolls, most of the first Generation X album, sort of the better tracks. So we can throw anything we like in, a different song on a different night, even. So we're quite played in on that stuff. Yeah, it's just really rehearsing the new stuff, and that's what it's really exciting that we've got this really good new music. Yeah, just because you need that. You can't just go into the past and play what you've sort of rest on your laurels. No, you've got to have something that you're sort of really excited about, and that, then the old stuff makes sense, as well.
Now, talking of exciting, you've got a whole host of special guests performing, all of Marquee Moon. Now, that's quite a coup, don't you think?
Exactly, yes. I think that'd be really fantastic for a lot of people who love the initial sort of first wave of punk that happened in the 70s. And, of course, in terms of people like me, television that's who we were watching. We were watching what was going on in the CBGBs in 1974 to whatever, 70, when it went on throughout the 70s. We were watching from England. We were with those, music papers, the weekly music, the one grainy picture and dreaming into it. That's kind of what things were like back then. There was no internet or anything like that. So it's just and it wasn't like people walking around with cameras all the time. So there'd just be these grainy pictures you'd see, and you'd be kind of trying to dream into these grainy pictures, so. But that's what we were doing. We were watching what was going on in CBGBs, and people like television, they're just really instrumental. I remember buying the white label of Little Johnny Jewel, and thinking, wow, they're making records. Yeah, it was their own independent production, but that's what we cared about.
And let's talk about Bitter Taste, which references your almost fatal motorcycle crash. That memory must still be haunting you.
Well, it's more like the further I get away from it, the happier I am in a way. So, and now it's quite a few years, 30-something, blah, blah years away from it. So, because it happened in 1990. So, yeah, Bitter Taste was at the beginning of the pandemic that we wrote Bitter Taste. And we just knew right then I couldn't really write a song about the pandemic because it was all so fresh. So I thought about a time when a difficult time for me. I didn't know what was going to happen into the future. And so we wrote Bitter Taste. But on this new EP, Cage, we did actually write a pandemic anthem because we'd been locked in for 2 years. And we just thought, we had a load of experiences. Then they'd marinated inside us. And now they came out as a great song. So it's a pandemic anthem, but it doesn't have to just be about a pandemic. It can be about any time that you feel held back by society or what's going on around you, and you just feel sort of smothered or whatever, you just got to break out. It's a fun song. So actually, we've actually moved on from Bitter Taste in terms of having a pandemic song to get your frustrations out. Yeah, I've been fighting with my demons so long they've become my friends. It's got lines like that in it. And we boarded up our ambitions because down here on Sunset, Los Angeles, it was all boarded up. They'd boarded up all the windows because that's just what was going on, So it seemed like our ambitions had been boarded up as well. So, we do have this really killer new song. And we got a video for it as well. So I'm excited that people will be seeing that.
Well, listening to this, it sounds a pretty optimistic song.
It is actually, yeah, because you can overcome what's going on, really. That's what it's about. It's about, not giving in and not letting the lockdown or what's going on around you completely destroy your ambitions or whatever, So it's a fun song too. It's just a really kick-ass fun song as well, and killer. And Steve's just playing fantastic on this new EP. There's a lot more guitar somehow. It's a bit more coming at you. It feels like a step on from the last EP, the Roadside EP. It's a little bit of a step on. Our toe was in the water with the first EP. We're a little bit more in the flow now. And obviously working with these young guys, we're working with Tommy English and Joe Janiak. They're both really great, and Tommy English producing Cage and stuff. So we've sort of, musically, with the relationships me and Steve have got going on, they're expanding, and that's a fun thing to be experiencing, especially at this stage of my life, really, or career, or whatever the hell this is, because who could have imagined that? You know, we initially just did the music back in 1976. We just thought, God, it might last 6 months, might last a year, maybe two. But, you know, here we are a million years later, still enjoying it.
Well, Billy Idol, thank you very much.